And let's specifically,
Hey there, Alexandre. Happy full moon.
happy full moon, Leo full moon, happy
Yeah,
full moon.
man. And welcome back, everybody, to the channel. This is Centered Soul, and this is Wisdom Bites number 3 with Solar Soul again. And yeah, got a bit of an upgraded setup this time. So hopefully there can be a little bit more pleasure aesthetically for everybody who's tuning in.
Mhm.
So, brother, what do we want to speak about today?
So we were starting to mention in our chat the idea of collective movements, mm, of how humans in collective can act as a wave, and this wave bringing change,
Great.
right?
Yeah. Yeah, I feel that yeah, it's a really important topic for what's happening on the entire earth right now. Like
Mm.
we've been through so much individuation. We've been through so much ego development as a species. We've been through so much narcissism and selfie taking and this government versus this government, or this fashion label versus this thing. And to really observe the power and, on a Leo full moon, I think it's important to address directly the polarization of the ego and to go, hey, look at how strong that has become. Look at where we have been led to as a result of that really powerful individuated ego manifestation and what's going on right now. Yeah.
Yeah.
So how do we then rectify that, or how do we move to the next space? It's got to be through that collective unification.
Mm-hmm. There is something that struck me in this is that even the individuation can be part of a wave, collective wave, like the collective getting into individuation, and something that it's actually something that came to me a long time ago. I think like about 10 years ago. LSD made me realize something, that if we move like water, and we're speaking about this with the wave, then something that happens is that some part of the wave are moving first, then others are second, and others are third, and some part are also the last. And what happens between the particles is that they attract each other. There is some kind of magnetism that brings one drop of water with another, and because of this, like the movement of one is impacting the movement of another one.
Totally.
And so, like, for example, if some of us have reached that part where, okay, like we see now the need for something else than individuation, for example, is because we went through this strong learning about our own selves, about our boundaries, about our desires, and if we are moving out of this, we are still attracting people that will go through it. So what I sense in this is that there is like a potential intuitive or instinctive, both actually, way to feel where is my current step of learning in the collective process and where someone else might be. Something that I noticed for myself, for example, is like the past few years have been a lot about integrating a mature masculinity, about maturation of the really the main parts of like the boyhood getting into the manhood, and all of the topics that come with this, like responsibility, like commitment, like so many things like that. And right now I sense, I even just like witness that a lot of the process I'm going through is about actually the Leo's energy, which can be like about putting myself outside, but also as something that shines bright and offers its light to others. And comes also the topic of financial abundance.
Yeah, totally.
And especially when we speak about the collective that is in spirituality, how financial abundance comes with spirituality. And this, as I think, is part of this wave movement that we are going through, while others are still in the individuation process. And so if we see the whole collective as one wave, then the wave is so big that we are all at different steps of the movement. And the question for me would be, how can I myself let this wave ride me, or ride the wave in a way that I take the spot that is mine? Meaning
Absolutely.
that if I can inspire people that are a little bit behind, how can I be as inspiring as possible? And also, how can I look as the ones that are further to get the inspiration from them?
Absolutely. I feel that really talks to this concept that I attempt to embody all the time, which is to be the forever student. You know, the biggest block to that progression, vibrationally, monetarily, is to just absorb more, you know, like to refine more, and not to overload ourselves, not to go, oh, I'm overdosing on information, I'm overdosing on teachings, you know, I'm overdosing on medicine or whatever else, but constantly chugging along, constantly being like, okay, if I want to progress, if I want to move into the next octave, if I wanted to refine my position, if I want to move to a higher point on that wave, then I'm going to have to up level. And if I'm going to up level, really the best way to do that is to find, from my awareness, professional development. Like, okay, what is my offering? I've understood that. I've individuated. You know, for me, it's working with Kambo, working with Bufo. It's working with, you know, psychic readings. It's giving one-on-one mentoring to people. Okay, how do I funnel that into something that's more hyper precise? How do I allow for that to get laser focused? Because you know, out of all the things, I could have been a carpenter, I could have been a fire truck driver, could have been a politician, and would have been a great politician, let's be honest. But how do I refine that to being specific at my trade? How do I refine that to being a specialist rather than someone who's just a really general, you know, oh, I can just paint white walls, like, you know, okay, maybe I can do one specific type of lining or trimming on the side. Like, how do we zoom in and find that deep niche? And that deep niche that we can then specialize in allows us to improve, allows us to help a certain fraction of society and to claim our individual place. I do feel that two things to address. One, this month is the second month in 2022, and we are heading very quickly towards the 22nd of the second month, 2022. And for me, that speaks to very deeply the marriage of the material and the physical, the above and the below. So also the financial, the deep material, and the spiritual abundance, and marrying these two concepts together. And where we've seen those waves oscillate in previous cycles between super materialism and then super spiritualism, I feel there is that union that's coming together this month, next week, between those two poles. And if people are too far on one side or the other side, they're going to be in the middle, they're going to be pushed into that center space. So the more we can align ourselves to, you know, as above, so below, like as material, as spiritual, as financial, as also the capacity for me to have strong realization and strong ability to facilitate. Yeah, my go-to for that entire process is to keep my eye really firmly on my North Star, keep my eye really firmly on where am I going, what am I doing, how can I personally continue to be the student, continue to be humbled, and continue to improve so that I can naturally and easily overflow with no effort. You know, I don't need to script anything. I might come across as awkward and weird sometimes, even in my client calls or whatever else, but I don't care because it's a natural overflowing. It's not like, this is exactly what I need to say and I'm robotic and like I have a formula for how it's done. Yes, I have a formula for how it's done because there's certain things that I want to achieve, but that fluidity within that structure allows for a greater opening and a greater expanse. And for me to keep my eye on, I want to be the best that I can be in my specific field. So the people behind me, the people walking behind me, the people following me, the people who want to work with my energy, I'm not turning directly around necessarily to face them. I'm marching forward and being like, hey, let me hold your hand. Let's walk together. And I find that's much more empowering than turning around and forgetting that I'm also on that journey too. Like the journey is endless. We will never reach the destination, because that's the whole beauty of creation, the universe, God, whatever you want to call it. It's an unfoldment. Like it's endless realization, it's endless improvement, it's endless refinement. There is no end goal. Like it's just onwards and upwards. And that for me allows for the work that I do to be deeply meaningful, because I'm on that journey endlessly too.
Yeah, and that's where it becomes really, in my opinion, the taste of seeing is better in the now, right? So the thing is there. It's like, oh, because I have like a pull towards something, a North Star, like you said, but I'm not just like so clinging to a destination, to arriving somewhere, that I can be now in the process. If we
Yeah.
come back to the idea of the wave, I am a particle in the wave of the collective, and the particle that I am is where I am. And other particles of the waves are in other uh, parts of the same movement. If I go back to this, like something that I noticed in your share is that I kind of clearly see that the collective is working through main themes that are, at some point, there is like a checkpoint saying, okay, this has been worked at least by a part of the collective. We can pass to another lesson somewhere.
Yeah.
And if I've seen the collective work like really a lot on the maturity of the masculine part for, I would say, like about 2 to 3 years. Now I see that, yes, some part of the society still has to go through this teaching, and it will take as long as necessary.
Mm-hmm.
But many of those that have been working through this for a couple of years now are now moving into the interweaving of the masculine and the feminine, just what you described with the structure and the flow
Exactly.
inside of that structure. And it is the interweaving, the collapse of polarities, and which
Mm-hmm.
doesn't mean that we get crushed in between them, but actually that we see the non, or at least the illusionary
Yeah.
difference between them, that they are not opposites, they are complementary. And in this, with the, if we go back to the idea of spirituality and matter, of the idea of like high subtle teachings and money making, I believe that actually one of the uh, teachings that I am at least going through right now, and I think many of us are, is that if the highness that we touched on our journey is so infinite, then the amount of richness, of abundance
Yeah.
that is possible thanks to it is exactly the opposite of what other teachings have been saying. Like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, if you are spiritual, you have to vow yourself to be poor or something like that. It's actually the exact opposite. If you
Uh-huh.
reach a broader, more complete image of what spirituality is, as above, so below. So it's the same.
Mm-hmm.
So then, yeah, like the abundance is as well infinite. And that's where what I see when I look further in the wave, where I'm not yet, but I sense I will be. And somehow I am already, but I just don't experience it yet. And
Yeah.
other selves are already there. And yeah, like we were previously discussing, we have examples of people that are just like millions of dollars abundant through just one program sometimes. And
Mm-hmm.
the rule that there is an equal in the middle between what they offer and what they receive. Like those people are not in the old paradigm of making a lot of money through Ponzi schemes or
Yeah.
pyramidal
Yeah.
stuffs.
Exactly.
No, no, they're really like equaling the impact and service they give is
Mm-hmm.
worth millions of dollars. And in there, like you can see my smile, I sense a lot of enthusiasm, that, yeah, I don't really care about the millions of dollars. What I care about is the unlimited potential for life to be
Exactly.
experienced by myself, in, which I would call freedom somehow, which comes with the power of the money and with service.
Yep.
And the idea that there would be like infinite value in spirituality, infinite potentiality of financial abundance, and then infinite potentiality, like really an infinite potentiality of service, then I feel complete. Like that's where I feel that, at least for many of us that who, like, it's difficult to really stratify this, but some of us are at the edge of, like, yeah, we work with people that are still in the matrix getting out, and we are part of those that will help this movement going forward. This is the wave that we were speaking about, and in this I really feel that for us it's, and for others it's very important, and we see no limitation to the wave that we are. Like this wave can get
Yeah.
bigger and can go really, really far.
I have an addition to this analogy,
Mm-hmm.
where, you know, when we're first going along the spiritual path, when we're first awakening to our true nature, when we're balancing our animal with our divinity, when we're balancing the human with the God, it is like we're on the surface of the ocean. So there's lots of big waves going. Sometimes they crash and they break and they get boom, they suck back out. You know, and there's a very volatile process of transformation that happens on the when we haven't cracked beneath the surface, when we're still in the air. So with the air above, this is the mind. You know, when we're still mostly focused on the mental operations of existing, the surface of the water, the surface of the emotions, the surface of true growth seems very up and down. You know, it's like whoop, 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 okay, like, you know, is it going to crash when it hits the physical body, when it hits the shore? When the physical body goes through something, is it just going to lead to emotional process? Like the air seems safe, like the mind seems like this, okay, there's wind, there's movement, but it's not this crashing, volatile, constant destruction and sucking back. But once we pierce the veil, once we go through the initiation of understanding how the water operates, and we sink beneath the waters and we move from that shallow space and into a much deeper space, there is currents underneath that we didn't even know existed. There is complex emotional currents that are not perceivable on the surface, that are not able to be witnessed from just the surface crashing of the waves or from just the air, but to sink
Yeah.
into that deeper space of emotional movement of, you know, I'm speaking to a fucking like what triple Scorpio here, so like preaching to the choir, but for other people listening, you know, that to get into that deeper, those deeper currents, like it's more complex. And we can see as well that these movements of water underneath the surface that are not visible actually bear a much greater influence on how those waves crash, but they're not affected by them. It's a completely different system. And that's where I feel that we are birthing into, having married these polarities together individually and collectively as a species. We're no longer going to be in this, okay, this country has an issue with this country, this, you know, this America wants to start war with, you know, Russia or whatever else, or vaxxed and unvaxxed. We're going to move beyond this polarity. I believe in 2022, but it might be the end of the 2020, you know, 2020s moving into 2030s. Hey, it could even be the next, like, you know, in the 3000s. I'm not sure, but at some point there is going to be this shift to oscillatory dynamics from big wave, small wave, crashing wave, sucking wave, and into this whoomp. Whoa, okay. Now we're all interconnected. Now we're aware of like the true nature that we are an ocean of unity. There's different things that have to happen now. There's different ways of learning how to exist now. And that's a special and very beautiful evolution of consciousness. And as you say, yes, there are individuals that are living in that deeper, more interconnected space already. And those waves are no longer waves. It's like tides, you know, it's deep currents of energy. And that's what I feel that for myself and for you, we're really choosing to enter into. We've pierced the veil. We understand a lot of the limitations of the air, of the mind, of the belief systems of the planet. We're moving into that deep feeling sense. And it's entering into a stream that isn't necessarily perceivable from the mainstream. It's not on the surface. It's very much under the current, but it's there and it's present and it's powerful. And those tides, they really dictate at a deeper, more fundamental level how things operate on the surface. And I feel truly blessed to have the awareness of that and to enter into those fundamental sort of building blocks, like the more core, deeper layers of what constitutes trends, what constitutes collective beliefs, what constitutes the movements of society as a whole.
Yeah, I really sense that what I was saying, I really want to bring this again, is the idea that if I want to be a part of the wave and do my best to be part of that wave that changes the collective, then I would say like 3 things to do, which are not really doing things, but still that there is an intention to put in there so the energy flows there. One is to be inspired by what is more advanced. One is to inspire what is less advanced. And one is to just be where I am and be like conscious of the process I'm going through, of what I'm learning, which one of my structures are being upgraded or stretched. And that's the play we are playing right now about speaking about money, for example. That's where we are being stretched and working on our own structures. And it answers a little bit what you were saying. Maybe it's just 2022, because some people are in that part of the wave where they are going already out of this duality teaching this year.
Yeah.
And some part are in the part of a wave where I believe like the whole collective will have went through this teaching in probably a decade, and maybe some will be left a little bit behind and will work it later. This I don't know. What I want to bring and maybe to live with people and leave people with this is like, if we speak about the coming togethers of polarity, and we speak also about the will of doing our work as best as we can, then there is 2 polarities that can seem being contradictory, but are not. They are complementary. And one is to chill the fuck down, and the other one is to take your fucking responsibility.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. It's structure and formlessness simultaneously. It's the masculine and the feminine. It's I'm going to completely organize every single aspect of my life, and I'm going to be free flowing and spontaneous. And to bring those 2 things together is a pure gift. It's the DNA. It's the structure of who we are. It's a fundamental core building blocks to embrace these two parts.
Yeah, I'm gonna have my laptop where I work on, and my entrepreneurial journal where I write everything I need, just next to my hammock.
Yeah.
And the sunset.
Exactly, brother. Well,
for that.
Thanks for the latest like little tune in. I think that we're going to see some really beautiful things happen on the 22nd. And although the 3D might look sort of tumultuous or stressful, or there might be these fears that collectively come up, this is a deep moment in time for us to heal and to celebrate and to be super grateful for what's coming up for all of us.
Yeah.
So thank you again for coming to have a little chat with me, and thank you guys for tuning in. I'll put the link for Alexandre's page as well in the description box. So if you feel to reach out to him and to work with him for coaching, it's also a potential. And yeah, like, share, subscribe, do all of these things. It really helps to support us. I really understand now the algorithm gods in a much deeper way. And if we don't have people directly interfacing with the content, like we sort of just get dismissed by how much content's out there. So even if you could just, anything helps. Yeah. All right, brother. Thank you very much for your time.
Ciao, ciao.